Welcome, gamers, to this Legend of Zelda Link to the Past randomizer match between Kip and Fritza. This is a match that occurred, this is a race that occurred between these two runners as part of the Go Mode Podcast Mentor Tournament 2024. My name is DDR Kirby, and I have been trying to bring you some rebroadcasts of some of these matches that have been happening in the bracket stages of the Mentor Tournament, in case you were not able to catch them live. Both of these runners, of course, having made it through the 6 rounds of mentored Swiss races. I believe Kip made it out of those Swiss rounds with a 5-1 record, and Fritza with a 4-2 record. This is going to be game 2 of this best of 3 series. Looks like we're off. Let me go ahead and get these streams synced up real quick. But like I mentioned, this is going to be game 2 of this best of 3 series. Fritza having won the All Dungeons seed that these two previously played as game 1 of their series. So Kip is going to need to win 2 races in a row if they want to take this series. Fritza only has to win 1 more race. I believe game 1 was an all dungeon seed, so you can feel free to check that out if you want to know how that played out. I will be putting a link to both of these runners' streams, Twitch streams, in the description of this video, in case you want to check that out. But for now, we're going to watch both of our runners go through the Hyrule Castle escape sequence, because today's game mode is casual boots, so both of our runners will be starting with the Pegasus boots to dash around, as well as a fighter sword. Both of our runners have picked up 3 bombs from the chest in Link's house. Not going to be relevant until later on, but always nice to see some early bombs, as that means our runners won't have any issues with getting those chests in Kakariko Village. Both of our runners also have 320 rupees, so looking pretty comfy on resources. Of course, there's not going to be any routing divergence, because you are forced to go through the escape sequence in casual boots as the first kind of item of business. So we're just going to be looking at, differences in execution here, who can get through these rooms cleaner with optimal dash lines and efficient movement, as well as, nice strats for taking care of these required enemy kills. It's like both of our runners are pretty even. Fritza pulling ahead with a little bit of an early lead, having a little bit of probably a little bit better movement through some of these rooms, but it is definitely still pretty close here. Right, some different strats here. Both of our runners electing to kind of tink their sword to get that guard's attention. Fritza tinked the door, and Kip chose to tink the statue. But either way, both of them managed to finish that out just fine. So here's a potential strat difference that can come up. The ball and chain guard does take 8 fighter sword slashes to defeat, but you can also use pots in place of the slashes. Each pot will do the equivalent damage of basically 4 fighter sword swings. So you'll see Fritza is electing for those 8 slashes. That is going to be optimal. Kip choosing a hybrid strat of 1 pot and 4 slashes, which is almost just as good. And another 300 rupees right by Zelda, so both of our runners already with enough money to pay Zora's 500 rupee fee. We'll see if that comes into effect later on. Hopefully you've been enjoying these recasts of these matches so far that I've been hosting on my channel. Of course, I'm not going to be able to recast all of the matches that are happening in the bracket stages. There are 4 different brackets. We've got the Fighter Sword, Master Sword, Tempered Sword, and Gold Sword bracket. These 2 runners, of course, in the Gold Sword bracket, so the top 16 runners of the tournament. But there are certainly a ton of matches going on, so there's plenty more where this came from if you enjoy watching Link to the Past randomizer content, and then you enjoy watching these mentees kind of showcase what they've learned. And it is worth noting, of course, that these round 1 of the brackets are kind of the first time that these mentees have been going through these seeds on their own. Of course, during the 6 weeks of Swiss, they did have mentors on voice calls with them, kind of directing them and helping them out. So we'll see how these runners fare now that they're kind of on their own, having left the proverbial nest. Alright, so both runners very much synced up going into Dark Cross. There is there's a possibility for setting up a key dash out of this room. Wow, look at the sync here. It looks like DaFriza got the key dash, couldn't see it quite on Kip's side, but both runners still pretty much neck and neck here. Okay, DaFriza with a little bit of a cleaner dash there, but again, both runners still very much tied up. Kip, unfortunately, finding the wrong rat there, but does get a full magic for his troubles. So DaFriza going to pull ahead to kind of a one-room advantage here. Of course, there is still plenty of seed to go. You know, these seeds will typically take anywhere from 1.5 hours to 2 hours, depending on where the item locations are. As far as timing for this segment goes, kind of the tippity top of the crop can typically finish the Casual Boots escape sequence in just around 5 minutes. So DaFriza with a very respectable 5:17 upon, or 5:18, and Kip is going to follow with a low 5:20. And just a single rupee at Sanctuary. And we are now officially done with Hyrule Castle. We never have to go back there again, unless, of course, we need to take down Aghanim. Right, Kip showing us our first map check. Looks like all 3 Light World dungeons are going to have crystals for us today, so all 3 of those dungeons are going to be required, and I do believe I saw a red crystal at Desert Palace. Of course, those 2 red crystals are going to be the key to opening the 2 checks at Pyramid Fairy later on in the Dark World. Alright, we've got a little bit of a small divergence here. DaFriza electing to check the item here at Lumberjack Cave. This is a very common play in Casual Boots mode. Of course, you can't get this item right away because you will need to defeat Aga and climb Castle Tower in order to get it. But in Casual Boots mode, it is frequently said that since you already have boots and a sword, you are kind of 2 items closer to being able to collect that, so that is a common check. But Kip going to be able to save a little bit of time here by electing to skip that, at least for now. So Kip will be the first to make it into Kakariko Village. Of course, Kakariko Village is going to be the densest play early on, so that's kind of the standard opening route that you want to get to. So no progression items for our runners so far, but we'll see what Kakariko has in store for us today. As previously mentioned, both of our runners do have that money for Zora, and since we do have the Pegasus boots, if our runners do elect to go all the way to Ice Rod Cave as part of their South Shore routing checks, they will have the opportunity to do a water walk all the way to Zora. That can be a popular play in this mode, since you do always have the boots on hand to do that sequence of checks. We've got a glove in the bottom of Blind's hut. So that does actually put Zora into logic. Of course, you can, in the vanilla game, lift that light-colored boulder kind of between the potion shop and Zora, so that will put Zora into logic, but of course, in Randomizer it is a little bit more common to see something like a Fig Flipper or a Water Walk in order to get to Zora just a little bit faster. That glove, of course, also does allow us to do 2 checks up on Death Mountain, although those both are not in logic, so probably not a high priority for either of our runners at this point. Okay, and Bottle Vendor just having a piece of heart for us. Pretty dry Kakariko, actually, so far, so... I wonder if our progression is all hiding out kind of in our South Shore checks, so that would be the Dam and Mini Moldrum Cave. That'd be my most likely guess, but you know, our runners could definitely get forced into an early dip of Eastern Palace, for example. We'll have to see what happens. Okay, still nothing. I will say, there are a lot of people who will say that if Kakariko is particularly dry, they will elect to skip scouting the item on race game and just go ahead and get it, as they feel like, you know, because the rest of Kakariko hasn't had anything, it is more likely, you know, that something relevant or progression-wise will be on that ledge. Keep electing to still make the kind of more standard play of scouting it. It is the Magic Mirror though, so definitely going to want to go and pick that up. Looks like Defritza is going to make that same play to scout the item, and they are definitely going to go ahead and, opens up the menu, but yeah, you definitely want to grab that mirror. That is going to be super relevant. So that also allows us to get all the way up to Tower of Hera, actually. It will be out of logic, because of course you are logically expected to have either the lamp or the flute to get access to Death Fountain. But we do have the ability to go up to Tower of Hera now. That might be something that our runners kind of choose to put off, because of course Tower of Hera can be fire-locked. So there's a chance that you can clear that dungeon and get the crystal from Moldorm. There's also a chance that that is completely impossible at this time. So Kip electing to head over to the dam here. And making great use of that magic mirror to delete the block over there, allowing you to check both of these items in one go, as opposed to having to walk back out and again. Defritza looks like they're going to follow suit. And we see an early Cane of Somaria, so that is the Cane of Somaria in Sphere 1. You know, I always say that early Cane of Somaria does kind of hint a little bit towards Turtle Rock, as, you know, of course, the entire dungeon of Turtle Rock is locked out by the Cane of Somaria. Looks like Kip is going to give us a routing of comboing Dam with Agina. We'll see if Defritza chooses to do the same, or whether they elect to kind of do the slightly more common play of going to the right. We do see our Magic Cape right outside the dam. That is kind of the sunken treasure chest. Sunken treasure check, excuse me. That Magic Cape is going to put us one step closer towards being able to defeat Aghanim. And Kip finds the Fire Rod. Okay, that is a very big find over at Agina. Probably be a while until Defritza actually goes ahead and finds that Fire Rod, as Agina is kind of an easy to leave behind location at this point. Alright, Mini Moldorm Cave has half magic, the hookshot, and an armor upgrade. Really showing up the goods here. Alright, and Kip is actually going to elect to skip out on Mini Moldorm Cave and instead head straight to Saha. Interesting. I would not have expected this. And Kip finds the shovel and the flute in Saha's closet. Okay, this is already paid off for Kip. But it looks like they are still going to keep on going, so they are actually going to dive... Okay, thinking about it, okay, they're actually going to dive into Eastern Palace. This is really interesting. So they have the ability to just, you know, they have the option to just save and quit and, you know, activate their flute. That is definitely a great item to find there. But they're choosing to dive into Eastern Palace here. I wonder what the reasoning is. Of course, Eastern Palace is not going to be clearable without that bow on hand. Defritza, on the other hand, is going to do this water walk, so this is kind of the more expected play, at least from my point of view. You do all your dense checks in South Shore, and then you're going to make use of this water walk to go to the Zora area. It looks like Defritza is choosing to not water walk to Hobo, since of course you'd have to swim back from there. Being able to skip Hobo kind of is going to be the best usage of your water walk. But oh no, they get a heart refill in Waterfall Cave, which unfortunately breaks the water walk state. That's really unlucky, so they're going to have to leave that other chest behind in Waterfall Cave. It's not really something that you can plan for. Even if you know that you have 3 pieces of heart, there's no way of knowing, you know, what's in those chests. So that's just kind of bad luck there. It also makes this traversal to Zora a little bit slower, so it's really unfortunate. So both are runners with some really strong items that neither of the other ones have. So Kip with that early Fire Rod and Flute, and Defritza with that Hookshot. So Defritza actually, if they want to, has the opportunity to check all the items on Paradox Cave. They would still be out of logic, but they can use the glove and hookshot to get up there if they want to. That is a lot of density, and their other option is going to Saha and Eastern Palace. And of course, as we just said, Eastern Palace is not fully clearable without that bow in hand. So it looks like Defritza is going to go ahead and make that play to the mountain. Kip, in the meantime, is going to continue on. This last chest in Eastern Palace that is accessible is the Vanilla Big Key chest, and that is going to be out of logic without the lamp, unfortunately. So both our runners actually kind of going out of logic, although Defritza doesn't know it, but that flute is actually going to put the rest of these checks on the mountain in logic. So I imagine we're going to find our progression up here on Death Mountain, probably at Paradox Cave. Now the one risk to going up the mountain here is going to be, if our hammer is found in some other location, it could mean having to make another traversal up Death Mountain, but I guess actually that's not true, because both our runners have the magic mirror, so that is actually a non-issue. Alright, so Kip coming up blank in Crystal Eastern Palace, so that is going to be a double dip that is not going to pay out for him, unfortunately. He's most likely going to be going ahead and activating his flute at Kakariko. Meanwhile, Defritza making great use of hook speed as well as carrying that bomb up those stairs to speed up the movement a little bit. And there's a Master Sword in Spectacle Rock Cave. So we got actually two ways of accessing Aghanim's tower now, through both the Master Sword or the Magic Cape. Still no Lamp or Pearl, though, to really make that into an immediate, possibility. Alright, so Kip activating his flute. I imagine Kip is going to go ahead and finish up those South Shore checks. Defritza is going to try and set up for this bomb jump here. This will allow you to get out of this cave a little bit faster, and gets it. Very nice. Alright, Defritza actually going to take this portal. Okay, so they're just going to go straight to Tower of Hera. Give us our first Darkhold map check here. So it looks like we had Palace of Darkness, Swamp Palace, and Ice Palace. The three palaces, I guess, are all pendant dungeons, so you don't have to beat any of the dungeons with Palace in their name, except for Eastern Palace, I guess, so. And Desert Palace. Okay, actually there's more palaces in this game than I thought at first. And Kip digs up the Book of Mudora with a shovel. That is really interesting. So that is actually a full clearable Desert Palace for Kip, so that is probably going to be next on the slate for him. I imagine he's probably going to do that before heading up the mountain. That is also going to let him check the item on Aether Tablet once he gets up to Death Mountain, which of course Defritza is not going to be able to check that. Alright, looks like Tower of Hera was actually fire locked, but Defritza going to bypass that requirement by doing this Hera Pot Clip. And Kip, in the meantime, going to pick up their Half Magic and Blue Mail from the Moldorm Cave that we already saw on Defritza's side. And Kip is going to be able to do these overworld traversals just a little bit faster due to, having the flute already. Not as huge of a deal compared to if you didn't have the boots, but it is definitely a little bit of a movement advantage. Just going to be able to speed up her traversal around the overworld just a little bit. Right, Defritza is entering their fight with Moldorm here. Gonna need 3 Spin Slashes in order to take down Moldorm. Nice usage of the hook shot, so while you're using the— oh no, but doesn't get it that second time. So while you're using the hook shot, you are basically intangible, so Moldorm cannot hit you, and you can use that to buffer a Spin Slash after your invincibility frames end. It can be a good strategy for having Moldorm kind of dash, go through you, and then Spin Slashing with his tail. You saw that right there, that worked perfectly. See if they can get this third hit. Very nicely done. Alright, is Kip going to be able to show us this right-hand item in Waterfall Cave that Defritza missed? They're not. They also had 3 pieces of a heart, and there, yeah, you can't get that chest. Okay, Kip realizing that they don't have to save and quit here, they can still get the item on Zora. Of course, we already know that it's nothing, but you might as well do that, at least that, since you're already here, as well as scout the item on Zora Ledge. Alright, DeFritza takes home their first crystal of the game at 19 minutes and, 15 seconds around. Fritza doesn't know it, but all these mountain checks are going to be in logic once they find their flute, which, again, was at Sahasrahla. Oops, DeFritza going into the wrong entrance there. Yeah, it's difficult to remember since it's the right side cave on in the light world, but it's the left side cave in the dark world. Alright, so Kip, saving pointing out of Zora's domain, you definitely don't want to walk out of there as it's really slow. And they are starting at Sanctuary, so I wonder... so they're probably gonna flute, but... Oh no, they're not gonna flute. Interesting. Okay, this is... I guess this is... They didn't quite remember that they already had their flute activated, okay. And they're going up the mountain. Interesting. Okay, I would have expected them to do Desert Palace first, but this is equally valid. I mean, you can check everything here. There's definitely more items here. Alright, and DeFritza not really finding anything in Paradox Cave. Ooh, heard Kip take a fall in this Death Mountain Dark Room. Hopefully they are making it through this okay. Okay, DeFritza gonna show us our last check here on Death Mountain in Spiral Cave. If this is nothing, then our progression pretty much has to be at Desert Palace, I believe. Or on Aether Tablet, I guess. We haven't seen Aether Tablet yet, so Kip's going to be able to show us that, although they are electing to actually go to the right side first, so this is a little bit of a different decision than DeFritza made. So choosing to go for, the dense item checks in Paradox Cave and Spiral Cave first, and then they might be going back and doing Tower of Hera afterward. Okay, DeFritza in the meantime going to go over and check Zaha. They're going to grab their flute. Now the question is, are they just going to save and quit out of here and activate that flute and head straight to Desert, or are they going to head into Eastern Palace? I guess the tricky thing for them is they haven't picked up their Fire Rod from Megina yet. Yeah, and if they had taken that route that Kip did, I imagine they would have kind of said no to Eastern Palace and went to Desert Palace instead, right? Because Desert Palace would be full clearable. But since they don't have that Fire Rod, dipping into Eastern Palace does make a lot more sense. Unfortunately, we already know that there's not going to be anything in there. So this is kind of going to equalize the round between Kip and DeFritza. They're basically going to end up in the same situation. We'll see who ends up getting to Desert Palace first. DeFritza has to make it through, these Eastern Palace checks, and Kip is going to maybe do Tower of Hera first, although they can also just elect to flute away from here after Spiral Cave and do Desert Palace first instead. So we'll see what they choose to do first. Okay, DeFritza's giving us some nice double cape dash strats in the Cannonball Room of Eastern Palace. Very nice. There's definitely a little bit of an egotistical side of me that hopes that they got that from my YouTube video, but can't say for sure. That is definitely a strat that people can come up with independently, for sure. I will say, all of these cape dash strats do get a little bit better when you have half magic, because of course there is an opportunity cost to activating and using the cape, because it does spend magic, and even if you don't need that magic right away, the next time that you defeat a boss, you do have to wait at the end of boss cutscene for that magic to replenish. So there's always a cost to using the cape, but it is definitely a lot less if you have half magic on hand. Right, it looks like Kip is going to say no to Desert Palace for now, and they're going to just finish Hera first. I think in my mind, it doesn't quite matter that much which order you do these two in. It's unlikely they're going to really be able to combo these with anything else. My guess is that, you know, knowing that nothing is in Hera right now, of course, you know, you'd rather go to Desert Palace, but that's kind of with perfect 2020 hindsight. I will say one argument for going to Desert Palace first is that, of course, we already knew that there was a Master Sword here. Oh, it looks like Kip doesn't know that bomb jump, so I'm gonna have to take and save a quit after grabbing that Master Sword. So that's a little bit of time lost compared to Da-Fritza. They're gonna have to do this mountain climb again. Of course, they can use hook speed like they did before to get up a little bit faster. Oh, actually, they didn't use hook speed. That's right, they just dashed. So. And Da-Fritza going to be finishing Eastern Palace, so I imagine Da-Fritza looks like they are going to be the first ones to Desert Palace, although they don't have the book yet, that's right. They need to dig that up with a shovel. That's right. But they're starting at Sanctuary. They need to... Oh, they still need to activate their flute. That's right. Kip is the only one that's activated their flute. So as I was saying, like, I do think maybe Kip could have stood to go to Desert Palace first, because, you know, if you're missing your Master Sword to check this item on Aether Tablet, that might be hanging out at Desert Palace, and then you might have to, you know, come back here later on if there is something at Aether Tablet, but that's just a small consideration, probably not super important in the grand scheme of things, and of course there was a sword in Spectacle Rock on the way, so it really didn't matter at all. Alright, so if it's having activated their flute, they've only got Shovel Dig Spot and Agina left. Looks like they are gonna dig up that book first, which is gonna work out well for them. They're gonna be able to full clear Desert immediately afterwards. One interesting problem here is that if you think about routing Desert Palace plus Agina, most cases you'd want to do Desert Palace first and then Agina second so that you can save a quit out of Agina. But of course, the Fire Rod, which is required to complete Desert Palace, is at Agina, so I wonder how Da-Fritza is going to handle this. Are they just going to dive into Desert first, or are they going to check Agina because their Fire Source could potentially be there? It looks like they are going to just... Okay, wasn't sure there for a second, but they are going to go grab their Fire Rod first, which is going to work out beautifully for them. In the meantime, Kip is actually going to give us our Hera basement check, so even though they did have the opportunity to skip this using the Hera pot glitch, they chose to go ahead and grab the big key, even though from their point of view, it wasn't even guaranteed that there's an item in the big chest. So they're choosing to play Tower of Hera a little bit more conservatively here than Da-Fritza did. But there is going to be an item in that big chest. If that is something important, then Da-Fritza is probably going to not get that for quite some time unless it's something like the Moon Pearl, and then they're, of course, going to get hard funneled into it. So let's see if there's anything big here. Okay, to be determined. So that bottle is going to let Kip check the item on Sick Kid. So to be determined whether that is going to be relevant or not. Okay, in the meantime, Da-Fritza is showing us our first look at Desert Palace. This is most likely going to be where the progression is located, I have to imagine, unless it's at Sick Kid. Okay, Kip kind of being blocked by Moldorm. Sometimes he hangs out around that jump down. Okay, but getting started with the first... Oh, gets a poke there. So if you get a poke, it does kind of throw off the damage progress on Moldorm. And so Kip did have to deal with that enraged Moldorm phase, but manages to finish off the fight without a fall. So doing a little bit better than Da-Fritza, having a little bit better luck with that Moldorm fight. Looks like one item remains in Desert Palace here for Da-Fritza. Okay, nothing on the torch. Let's go ahead and check the big chest. And Kip going to check out on that Sick Kid check before going to Desert. Let's see if this is anything special, or whether DeFritza just gained time by skipping Hera base. It's just a red rupee, so DeFritza is gonna end up winning out on pretty much like a minute or so of time based on having skipped that Hera basement check, at least for now. So both runners now with the same items. Oh, DeFritza finding the lamp as the first item in Desert Palace. I didn't notice that. That is actually kind of spicy, as that does put Aga into logic. And that's kind of the only thing left that we have, right? That we haven't seen. It's just the item on Lanmo as well as Aga. Of course, DeFritza doesn't know that, actually, so this could be a real conundrum for DeFritza if they don't find their Moon Pearl here. So if you find your Moon Pearl, then I guess either way it's kind of a conundrum for DeFritza, right? Because even if you do find your Moon Pearl, do you commit to doing Aga, or do you go up the mountain to check Ether Tablet? Because remember, DeFritza wasn't able to check that. They did not have the book during their mountain climb. So if you find your Pearl on Lanmo, I mean, this really does look like an Aga Seed. You have great Dark World access because you've got both the Glove and the Hookshot to kind of hookshot across that Dark World river. But at the same time, you know, you'd feel really bad if you climbed, did the entire Aga Tower sequence, and your hammer was waiting for you on Ether Tablet. Okay, what's it going to be on Lanmo? It's just 50 rupees. That's kind of even worse for DeFritza, actually. So at this point, the Moon Pearl pretty much has to be on Pyramid Ledge. Either that, or it's like a fetch quest item or the bow that leads to the Moon Pearl. Oh no, even the bow doesn't work because we've already gotten all 3 items out of Eastern Palace. So at this point, it's got to be either a fetch quest item, which I guess would only be the mushroom. I guess it could be the flippers too. Imagine if the Moon Pearl was hanging out on the right side of Waterfall Cave. That would be crazy. Okay, but if it's going to make the call to check at least Ether Tablet, I think this makes sense. But the real question is, are they going to commit to Hera Basement? You know, if you think about it, Hera Basement does, you know, take a lot less time than doing Aga. So in that sense, you know, if you're just, you know, looking for your Moon Pearl, and if you're just playing the odds and expected value, you know, average time, it does make sense to just do Hera Basement here, but I wonder if DeFritza is just going to make the call to skip this slow check and just go straight to Aga. Looks like they are going to commit to it, though. I probably would do the same thing. I personally am pretty conservative when it comes to sniffing out, you know, a potential required Aga Seed, especially if without the Moon Pearl, right? Because it's literally just one location that you can check, which is literally just Pyramid Ledge. So I would probably do the same thing here, but DeFritza is going to, unfortunately, lose their lead here. So Kip has to realize now that it's 100% going to be the Moon Pearl, or something that leads to the Moon Pearl on Pyramid Ledge here. So Aga is 100% required here. Luckily, our runners do have Half Magic and the Fire Rod, so Aga going to be, Castle Tower going to be a pretty nice dungeon to get through. And DeFritza not going to lose too much time here, but is probably not going to be super happy to see that this is the big key, and then, of course, the big chest is actually... Oh, that's right, because the big chest was a green bottle. So they're actually going to kind of get led on a wild goose chase here. So they're going to do their Hera Pot again, and then they're going to turn in that... they're going to check Sick Kid, and then all that for just... I believe it was a red rupee, I believe. Of course, Kip has already done all these checks, and so it's not really a time loss, but I think in Fritza's case, it definitely feels a lot more like the seed is kind of yanking your chain. Okay, Kip well on their way to making it through these rooms in Aghanim's Tower. Of course, there are no item checks here, so there's only a single chest. You know, there's the only chests here can only have small keys that are required to progress. So we're just doing this so that we can get to the Dark World and check that item on Pyramid Ledge and Fritza, getting the red rupee and confirming that indeed the answer is going to be to go to Castle Tower. Hope that you all are enjoying this rebroadcast so far. Like I said, if you're enjoying this gameplay of these two runners, go ahead and give them a follow on Twitch. I will have the links to their Twitch channels in the description of this video. All of the mentees and mentors have really been working very hard through this tournament. You know, there's been a ton of matches happening. I saw a lot of great practice and discussion happening in the Go Mode Podcast Discord and everything. And I pretty much only hear positive things about this tournament, and I can kind of echo that sentiment on my side. It's definitely been a great experience as a mentor as well as a mentee. Alright, keep making some more use of that Fire Rod on that bridge here. Of course, as soon as you defeat Aga, you are going to get a full magic refill. It will cost you, of course, a few frames, you know, to wait for that magic to refill. You know, I mentioned that after you beat each boss, you do have to wait for your magic and hearts to refill during that after-boss cutscene. But, you know, if it's between that and getting knocked around that guard or potentially falling on that bridge, you definitely want to just be safe and use the Fire Rod ammo, so no shame in doing that at all. Now we have, of course, pretty much our easiest boss of the entire game, assuming you know how to defeat him. Easiest way is just to charge Spin Slash every time that he fires, and 50% of the time he'll shoot a yellow ball, which you can flick back at him, and 50% of the time he will shoot a blue ball, which is just going to waste you some time. But it is normalized between the two runners, so they are going to get the same yellow and blue ball pattern. There are some additional subtle nuances about how you can save a couple frames here and there in the Aga fight, but really not anything that's going to make a super impactful difference unless you're, going for the vanilla speedrun world record or something like that. All right, and there, yeah, not even gonna go blind, gonna go scout it out because you have to get it, and it's the Titan's Mitts. That is not what I expected. Okay, thought for sure we were gonna see the pearl or the mushroom or the flippers, but it's the Titan's Mitts instead. And kept forgetting that if you have the magic mirror, yeah, you end up going to the pyramid if you save and quit. Okay, so the Mitts opens up both King's Tomb, as well as we actually have access to Checkerboard Cave, which is kind of interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and use this opportunity to trade in their green model for a blue one. I wonder if they're hoping to go to King's Tomb here. Unfortunately, they can't hop across here since they don't have the flippers, so they're gonna have to dash across this bridge. I imagine their first thought was to save and quit to Sanctuary, and then get to King's Tomb from there, but of course, they were kind of foiled in their plans because, having beaten Naga, you start the pyramid, so... Alright, and there's just a red rupee, so it looks like Checkerboard Cave is gonna be our answer, hopefully. So assuming Checkerboard Cave has the Moon Pearl... Oh, Kip's actually going to check Lumberjack Cave here, so Kip's actually going to lose a little bit of time. Yeah, lose a little bit of their lead, because remember, they did not elect to do this Lumberjack Cave check early on. So they're gonna have to go and check it now. Defritza's gonna be able to gain a little bit of time back here. Definitely a very linear seed here, though. Defritza actually going to remember to use the mirror before saving and quitting, so they are going to be able to get it to King's Tomb just a little bit faster. Kip's going to take that heart container. So that's pretty much actually the only item difference between our two runners at this point, is that heart container. Right, so Kip's going to be the first one to... Oh! Kip, you gotta go to Misery Mire. Yeah, you need your pearl before you can do that. And I assume our pearl's going to be at Checkerboard Cave, unless this seed is going to continue to string our runners along with the, the flippers or the mushroom. Alright, so when all is said and done, both of our runners, yeah, pretty much in the exact same place here, just with Kip just ever so slightly ahead. Unfortunately, getting really bothered by this, this Murderdactyl. The same thing is going to probably happen on Defritza's... Okay, actually, Defritza's going to elect to take an early mirror, an extra set of mirror transitions, just to get that bird off of their back. Gonna lose a little bit of time there, but... And there is our Moon Pearl. So I imagine you probably got to take this straight into Mireshed, right? While you're here. It'd be really crazy if the Mire Medallion was at Mireshed and we had a full clearable Mire. I didn't actually see what the Mire Medallion was. Looks like it is Balmos. Okay. So if we get that here, that'll be very spicy. But if not, then our runners only have one choice as to where they want to start, where they can start in the Dark World. We'll see if Kip remembers. Alright, looks like Kip, yeah. Sometimes you would elect to save and quit out of Mireshed, but yeah, you definitely want to mirror in the Flute in this instance. Unfortunately, it gets a mirror bonk there. Kind of crazy how, yeah, both of these runners with the exact same item loadout except for... Oh, they even do the exact same mirror bonk! Same item loadout, the only difference is that Kip is a little bit ahead and has that extra heart container. As well as a blue potion, I guess. So overall, Kip's routing and execution working out just a little bit faster. You know, Defritza did have to do that extra mountain climb. Oh, Defritza's gonna get the blue potion as well! They just can't stop following in each other's tracks. And I imagine both of them are gonna head up in Skull Woods as well. I mean, the other choice is to head down into Village of Outcast and Thieves Town, but of course, the Thieves Town Big Chest is locked by the hammer, and neither of our runners have that, so we probably want to go ahead and do the Skull Woods first. It is a full Cleaver Crystal. And if your hammer's here, you definitely want that before going down. Okay, both of our runners electing to head straight to the back first. This, of course, does make the most sense, as if you are... you know you want to beat Mothula anyways, because that's required for the crystal. And if Moth or the bridge chest, or maybe both, have items, and that'll save you a bit of time as you're checking the front of Skull Woods. Kip almost looked like they were going to check the bridge chest first. There is merit to checking the bridge chest first. There's certainly nothing wrong with defaulting to doing Mothula first, as that's definitely 100% required. But after defeating Mothula, you do end up outside of the dungeon, so that is going to lead to one extra screen transition, I believe, compared to the way that Defritza is doing it, where you know, you get to just mirror and then go to Moth, and then you only have to exit and enter the dungeon once as opposed to twice. Really only makes, you know, a few seconds difference, but Defritza is going to be able to have a little bit of that extra time here because of that decision. Alright, Kip into their fight with Mothula. Master Sword slashes and Fire Rod shots are going to do the same amount of damage here. and a pretty quick fight, all things considered. You definitely love to have half magic for that fight, and Moth is going to give us our first item out of Skullwoods, and it is a blue rupee. So both runners are going to make it out of this dungeon with their second crystal apiece. And that's at the 44-minute mark, so the sea definitely off to a little bit of a slow start, but that's as to be expected, with a required Aghanim for Dark World access, especially kind of stringing our runners along through all the way to Checkerboard Cave. Defritza's not having as great luck with Mothula. Looks like Mothula's kind of not taking a lot of clean hits here. Defritza might have to chug their blue potion if this keeps up. Okay, does elect to use their potion. Definitely a good idea. Gets a full grip of half magic for more Fire Rod shots. Unfortunately, Mothula, okay, was staying in that corner for a while. Hate to see that, but finally makes it out of there. And Defritza takes home their second crystal. Okay, let's see what this second item is in Skullwoods. It's just a red shield, and our runners get it right away, so you can see right there that is a perfect example of why going to the back of Skullwoods first can save you a lot of time. Defritza actually going to check the item on pedestal. It's just a piece of heart. That is definitely good knowledge to have, though, in case you're considering dipping into any of the three pendant dungeons here. You'll know that there's no merit to defeating Helmasaur or Cold Stare unless there is, of course, an item on those two bosses. Alright, Kip is going to elect to head over to the right here to check both Bumper Cave and Graveyard Ledge. We'll see if Defritza does the same or chooses to go straight to Village of Outcast and Thieves Town. I think in my mind this does make sense. My general rule of thumb is if you have limited Dark World access, then you do want to be a little bit more thorough with your checks. I will say our Dark World access is not as bad as it normally is in these situations. Normally you have either Mitt's Dark World access only or Aghanim Dark World access only, but our runners have both, so it's not actually quite as bad. Kip does get the Quake Medallion out of Graveyard Ledge. Looks like Defritza is going to follow suit at least to Bumper Cave at the very least. Wouldn't surprise me if they, if the pattern continues, they're basically doing all the same checks. Now, of course, Thieves Town is a full clearable dungeon here, but as I mentioned earlier, there is the danger of leaving behind something in the big chest, which is unobtainable without the hammer on hand. So we'll see if either of our runners decide to skip out on Thieves Town for now. I think in my estimation, it is pretty common to just go ahead and dive into Thieves Town normally in this situation. Again, it is a full clearable crystal. You never know. Sometimes a big chest is irrelevant anyways because it just has the magic compass. But I will say one caveat to this current situation is that it is really easy to get back to Thieves Town as it stands because our runners have the Titan's Mitts and the flute. So getting back to this dungeon is quite easy if you want to put it off until later. So one potential strategy could be to, skip over Thieves Town, make it all the way to Hype Cave, and potentially even do your Dark World Death Mountain checks, and then come back to Thieves Town if you want to be more conservative about the big chest in Thieves Town. Looks like Defritza elected to take a little bit of a different route. They chose to stay mirrored from Graveyard Ledge and I believe use the flute and mitts to get over to the Dark World again. I do have a timing video on that. I believe that is slightly slower if you have the boots on hand, but I don't think it's that much of a difference. You'll have to go reference my video to see exactly how much of a difference it is, but I do believe that's slightly slower, but it really doesn't make that big of a difference. More importantly, Kip finding the bow and arrows here in Thieves Town. So that is another item off of the required list, as we're going to require that to defeat Armos Knights, to get that crystal over there. Unfortunately, the other dungeon where the bow is relevant, Palace of Darkness, is a pendant dungeon, and we already know that Ped is a non-issue here, so that bow is not going to be super relevant as far as, routing progression goes, but it's still nice to have another one of those required items off of our list. Looks like at this point, besides the Turtle Rock Medallion, we're basically mainly looking for our hammer, but we're also going to need an Ice Rod to take down Trinex. Both of our runners also finding their Tempered Sword here in Thieves Town. It's definitely a nice find, a nice pickup to make some of these later dungeons a little bit easier. Of course, it doesn't really come into effect for this particular dungeon, as the boss of this dungeon, Blind, takes the same amount of damage from all of the weapons that Blind is vulnerable to. Whether you have the Fighter Sword or the Gold Sword, it will take the same 9 hits. Oh, very nice movement in that room by Kip. Probably not as fast as dashing through that room, but that is relatively tight to pull off if you don't dash. So, props on being able to execute that. It looks like we do have, by Kip's item tracker, we do have 3 items left here in Thieves Town, which does mean there is going to be an item left behind here in that big chest for both of our runners. And that's probably going to be one of the last places that you end up looking, so I think for their sake, I hope it's nothing relevant. Alright, Kip going to show us the blind fight here. Should have absolutely no problems, even if something goes wrong with the initial phase of the fight. They do have the magic cape as well as half magic, so they can totally cheese this fight if things kind of go off script. Okay, looking pretty good, and gets it without any real problems. You see DeFritza using a dash strat through that room that Kip did the tight movement in. It's a little bit of different approaches through these rooms for these runners, but overall, they're all the same path. Kip just a little bit ahead. And the path is actually going to be pretty set from here. I have to imagine you're going to want to pick up the Smith after doing Dig Game. You've got both the mitts and the mirror. You might as well, do all of these checks along the way, be super efficient. The only other option you would have here is to, rush up to do the Death Mountain checks. That is a very dense area, but I can't see that over Smith Chain here, I think. Okay, just a red rupee over here at Dig Game. Kip taking the back way out of Dig Game. And as expected, going to go ahead and pick up that Smith. Of course, we're not going to be able to check hammer pegs here, but nothing we can do about that. Alright, DeFritza looks like they have a slightly cleaner blind fight going on here. Does mess up a little bit on phase 3. It cleans it up anyways. Phases 1 and 2 looked very good though. And that's usually more than enough to get you through the rest of the fight, especially with this kind of equipment loadout. So both our runners going to make their way through with this kind of counterclockwise loop through the Dark World. Of course, both of our runners also have the red crystals out of Desert Palace and Skull Woods, so they are going to be able to do that Pyramid Fairy check. It is going to be done a little bit unconventionally. Usually you would bring the big bomb across the bridge with the hammer pegs, but of course neither of our runners have the hammer on hand, so they're going to have to instead use the mirror along with the portal at Hyrule Castle that opens up after you defeat Aghanim. That is actually a slightly faster route anyways, so that'll be a good thing to route in after this, if our runners so choose. Alright, Kip parking the purple chest outside of this cave, and just a red rupee inside cave 45. Definitely not going to need that. And Kip is going to elect to walk this purple chest over to the NPC in order to get it opened. You can elect to also dash if you know how to do the invisible purple chest glitch. We'll see if DeFritza does decide to do that, if they have that knowledge and practice doing that glitch. We also have a Bombos tablet check, probably coming up for both these runners. So I will say, even though, the beginning of the seed was pretty slow as to get going in terms of, really funneling our runners through some slow checks as well as required AGA, they're at least going to be able to be very efficient, having Mitts and Mirror and Book and kind of everything that you need to clear out this entire sector of the Dark World. Just bombs on Bombos tablet. So it's going to be off to Hype Cave for Kip. And then we'll see if they do elect to make that play that I suggested earlier, which would be bringing the big bomb to Pyramid Fairy. It looks like DeFritza is going to go ahead and make use of that purple, invisible purple chest glitch, so they're going to be able to make some dashes here that Kip was not. So going to be able to make up just a little bit of time here. There is the Bombos Medallion at Hype Cave, so that's actually a full clearable Misery Mire. And a Mushroom, okay. And Kip is not, let's see where Kip decides to go take this next. Looks like it is gonna be... Yep, this is gonna be Pyramid Fairy. I guess the real question becomes, after Pyramid Fairy, what do you do here? You have a clearable Eastern, but there's no items left in there, so that's not really a concern. You can just turn in the Mushroom real quick. You can also elect to save the Mushroom if you're thinking about doing a fake powder glitch. I will say that is pretty awkward to do right now since we don't have Hammer. Other options are we could just go and clear Misery Mire. I think that would be the most straightforward option, since of course that is a full clearable crystal. And of course, the other big option available to us is heading up to Dark World Death Mountain. We don't have a hammer, so we won't be able to, get entry into Turtle Rock, but we will be able to get, 6 items there in Super Bunny Cave as well as Hookshot Cave. Alright, looks like Kip is going to make use of this opportunity to... I was gonna say they're going to Catfish, but it looks like they're instead going over to Palace of Darkness? Ooh, interesting. This could be a potential point of divergence for our runners. So Kip electing to make the play into Pendant Palace of Darkness. This is not a clearable dungeon, as we don't have the hammer on hand, but of course it is a pendant dungeon, so we don't necessarily need to clear it anyways. DeFritza making some nice use of the hookshot in order to be able to dash with that big bomb on hand. Misses that one. Goes for it again, but misses it again. That is a relatively tight time to get that. Alright, so will the Pendant Pod play pay out for Kip? I think it was a pretty interesting decision, as I think if you're, just playing by the book, I think you just go to Mire here, as that's your full clearable crystal. They always say, just always be clearing your crystals. I do think if you're going for, you know, the fastest amount of dense checks possible, I think that would have to be Dark World Death Mountain, right? But, you know, there is something that they do say that progression is in Pendant Palace of Darkness, an awful bot. Fritza going to give us some divergence here, finally. So instead of going to Palace of Darkness, they are going to elect to go to Catfish as well as that Mushroom Turn-In. I like this routing, actually, as you get to do both of those. I guess Mushroom Turn-In can be done kind of efficiently from anywhere, as you do have the flute, but kind of nice to be able to do it on the way. Kip scores the flippers here in Palace of Darkness. That could either be really good or really bad, actually. Those items not being required because, of course, Swamp Palace is not a required dungeon here. But if something is in Swamp Palace, it could, you know, this could be really big. That also, of course, opens up the ability to check the item in the right side of Waterfall Cave, which neither runner was able to successfully check. Okay, Fritza making it over to Catfish. You can kind of see why Catfish is a check that a lot of people will mass locate sometimes, because Kip has already done, you know, a good, you know, quarter or third of this dungeon in the time that it took Fritza to dash over here. Alright, it's just a heart container. So where does Fritza go from here? Are they going to stick to basics and head to Mire? Or... You know, they actually had an opportunity to do a splash deletion glitch right there to check the right-hand chest in Waterfall Cave. I wonder if that's something they're familiar with, but just didn't think of at that time. But they are going to elect to kind of stick with their normal rule, the kind of normal rule of just, you know, clearing full clearable crystals as you get them. So they are going to dive into Mire, and the required Ice Rod is in Palace of Darkness. So this dip independent pod was fully required. This could get interesting. That's definitely something that you're really, really happy to see as Kip. That alone definitely validates. I mean, the flippers were kind of a toss-up, but that Ice Rod definitely validates the entire trip into here. And at this point, you should, yeah, stick around for getting all the items you can. The one question would be if Kip knows that there's an item on Helmasaur, do they go for it or not? That is kind of the slowest check in the dungeon, so it's definitely reasonable to leave it behind. There's another green bottle. So last check coming up before... I guess, oh, that's right, they don't have the hammer, so they have to leave Helmasaur behind anyway, so I guess not much of a choice for Kip. Looks like there is an item on Helmasaur that Kip is not going to be able to get here, but I can't imagine they're that displeased with that, having gotten both the flippers and the Ice Rod. And they're going to make use of this opportunity to just go ahead and finish Eastern Palace. I like this. This is making, you know, nothing's really going to make Eastern Palace faster unless you have the silver arrows. And even with that, it's just a good efficiency to just do this while you're here, rather than having to flute back to Eastern again. So, great thinking on Kip's side. It looks like Fritza is going to... I didn't see their full Mire route, but it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, based on the timing, I think they just checked the first two chests in Mire and are going straight to Vitreous here. Ooh, is this Spooky Glitch using an arrow? Is that what I'm seeing? So usually, in order to preserve the altitude value for Spooky Glitch, you kick up boots dust using the Pegasus boots, but you can also do that by shooting an arrow. Oh, they're not trying to do spooky. Okay, maybe that was just an accident. Okay. Oh no, oh, that's right, they didn't have to hit the switch the first time because they never hit the switch. Okay. So a bit of an uncommon setup for a Spooky Glitch there, but definitely does work. So great game knowledge by Fritza. Did they get that second Spooky Glitch? No, they walked up the stairs just a little bit too quickly, unfortunately, so they're gonna have to go back down. Yeah, great game knowledge by Defritza. Alright, Kip making their way into the fight with Armos Knights. And in the meantime, Defritza going into battle with Vitreous. Doesn't have the best resources here, but Path Magic should make this a little bit easier. Yeah, the easiest way is probably just to spam Sword Slashes. Saw them go for one spin, which spins are probably a little bit more optimal, but definitely easier to just spam slashes. Now for Defritza, do you kind of do the more standard thing and go back into this dungeon since you're already here and try to find the remaining 2 items? Or do you just leave? You know, Misery Mire is kind of infamous for being very slow in terms of the item efficiency. There's only 2 items in Misery Mire in the entire dungeon. So, looks like they are going to go back in. So this is going to be, you know, a little bit more of a conservative play. I think definitely there is potential for a more aggressive player to just leave this behind and say, okay, I'm going to come back to these slow checks later. Let me go ahead and do, you know, the 6 item checks on Death Mountain first. We'll see what ends up being here in Misery Mire. So far, I'm really liking, even though, you know, kind of Defritza is kind of ahead on crystal count, having already beaten Vitreous. I do like Kip's position, having that Ice Rod out of Palace of Darkness. We'll see how long it takes Defritza to get there. It is... I guess it is relevant that, you know, we do have to clean up Armos Knights on Defritza's side at some point, so that could be a motivating factor to... Oh, there's the Silver Arrows, that's definitely a nice find. That could be a motivating factor for wanting to do Palace of Darkness at some point, even though it's Pendant Dungeon. I wonder if that was, you know, some of the rationale for Kip going there in the first place. Alright, Defritza going to check one of the slowest checks here, Cutscene Chest. This is the vanilla Big Key chest. We'll see if Kip decides to take the same route through Misery Mire that Defritza did as far as rushing to the boss before checking the rest of the chests. Nice thing about doing things that way is that, of course, you don't have to hit the crystal switch the first time in the basement. Alright, Defritza is kind of done a little bit early, doesn't have to go to the right side at all. So, all things considered, not a bad Misery Mire. Alright, Kip is not going to go and rush the boss, so their route through the basement is going to be slightly slower, but we'll see. Another thing that could be relevant is if they decide to delay cutscene chests, they could spend a lot more time in this dungeon than Defritza. Alright, so it looks like Kip is not setting up for a spook glitch. Of course, using the lamp without taking any precautionary measures does break the, you know, altitude variable stored for that glitch. And Kip is going to put off cutscene chests, which I normally like, but unfortunately is not going to work out for him in this case. So Defritza is going to be able to gain some time back, and Defritza is going to Pendant Pod. So they're going to be able to pick up their flippers and Ice Rod, and our runner's going to be in the same situation. They just can't get away from each other, I guess. So what have we not seen yet? We haven't seen Hobo, as well as the chest on the right side of Waterfall Cave, but other than that, all that's left is the checks on Death Mountain, I believe. So I imagine our hammer is probably most likely going to be there. And getting that hammer is going to open up the ability to full clear... Oh yeah, because we already got our Ice Rod, so that's just going to be it then, right? That's actually crazy that Defritza... Oh, because Defritza doesn't have the Ice Rod, of course, so this makes a little bit more sense for Defritza. I do wonder if our runners did make a consideration of rushing up the mountain. You know, there are 6 checks up there, but if you find your hammer, that does enable you to take some different routes here. Allows you to get the last item off of Helmasaur as well if you want. But no, they're choosing to do pretty much the exact same thing, but just in a different order. Probably the worst location that the hammer could be in right now for these runners is going to be the first chest in Swamp Palace. I imagine that's probably going to be a hard and last location if it is there. Yeah, so Kip not having access to Spooky Glitch here, Spooky Action Glitch, so gonna have to do these rooms the kind of vanilla way. We'll see how they fare on their Vigorous fight. I imagine they're going to be just fine, especially since they have the added benefit of having Silver Arrows. Looks like they're going to start the fight off with some spins. And Cape Slashes, yeah. And going to be able to save just a little bit of time on Phase 2, as just 2 Silver Arrows are going to take down Vigorous. So that is going to be crystal number 6 for Kip. And when all is said and done, Kip actually... Well, the question is, do they go back in for cutscene chest? Looks like no. That is actually kind of a big deal here. You know, when both of the runners are, you know, basically locked onto the same route like they are here, these skips like that can really make a big difference. So Kip's gonna be way ahead here, actually. But you know, you can see, you know, DeFritz is about to, you know, come to the big chest and then mirror out a pod. I guess they still have to do Eastern Palace though. So, you know, DeFritz is spending a little bit more time in Misery Mire, you know, getting that chest and cutscene chest. Having to go back through the entrance of Mire twice because of their routing. And DeFritz also having checked Catfish, right? So Kip's staying a little bit, keeping their route a little bit more lean, I would say. You know, opening themselves up to the risk of orphaning something. You know, if the hammer was in cutscene chest, that would be really bad for them. But you know, that skip definitely paid off here. Alright, so nothing in Super Bunny Cave. My money's definitely on something being in Hookshot Cave here. Interesting, Kip chooses to check the TR medallion first. It is Ether! Okay, that was not what I was expecting. Looks like we have to hunt for both Hammer and Ether here. Alright, so what's going to be in Hookshot Cave? I imagine we're going to find the hammer here. If not, I guess there's still some terrible locations. It could actually be an Ice Palace, now that I think about it. Nothing's in Hookshot Cave. Surprising! Okay, so we've just got the first chest in Swamp Palace, I believe, as well as Ice Palace. Is that everything that our runners have not checked between the two of them? Oh, that's right, we still have some of the flicker checks. So we have, that's right, we still have Hobo and right side of Waterfall Fairy. I really want someone to check right side Waterfall Fairy now. Just to, like, think about the reaction if the hammer has been there the whole time. I have to imagine if either runner finds, you know, the hammer or Ether there, they're probably feeling really terrible because they know that they got basically a 25% chance at missing that item, and they have to probably assume that their opponent didn't run into the same glitch, even though in reality they both did. Alright, Kip giving us the Hobo check. DeFritz unfortunately seems to have fluted to the wrong place. Yeah, so DeFritz gonna do their mountain checks as expected. Alright, what's it gonna be on Hobo? Just a red rupee. Alright. So we've got Waterfall Cave, one chest in Swamp Palace, and Ice Palace. I guess odds are that it's in Ice Palace? I mean, no one likes going into Ice Palace without the hammer, but that might be the answer here. Kip gonna swim here. Not sure if that's faster than fluting again. But it looks like they're gonna check Waterfall Cave. Has it been here the whole time? Let's see. And it's gonna be... It is here! The hammer's been here the whole time! That has to feel terrible, even though we know it's completely fine. Yeah, Kip... Thinking for a moment. Okay, so now we've got options. None of them is particularly great, but we have... wait, where are they going? This is Hammer Pegs? As well as Thieves Town Big Chest? Oh, wow. This could be a play into Thieves Town Big Chest. So I think the natural play here would be either Swamp Palace or Ice Palace. Probably Swamp Palace because it's a green pendant. We're just looking for Ether here, remember? But I wonder if Kip is intentionally choosing something that's kind of off the beaten path, because remember, finding that hammer there feels really bad because you have to assume that your opponent didn't run into that same 1 in 4 chance to miss it. So this is actually really smart by Kip, even though, you know, we know that DeFritza's kind of in the same situation here. The blue cane, okay, not gonna help us, unfortunately. Ooh, DeFritza taking some interesting routing here, actually gonna set up for a water walk here. I don't think this is faster. Although, actually I'm not sure, because they're gonna be able to water... Okay, in theory they can water walk. No, they can't, because they have flippers. Yeah, I don't think this is faster, actually, than just going straight to either Hobo or Waterfall Cave, but... Okay, Kip... interesting, so Kip just checked Hammer Pegs alone, so they didn't go back for Thieves Town Big Chest. So they're going to Swamp Palace now? I mean, this makes sense, and Thieves Town Big Chest is pretty slow to get to. I'm not sure I understand the logic of going just for Hammer Pegs as just that one-off. Like, if you're going to, like, assume that you're, like, way behind, and that your opponent is doing, you know, Swamp Palace and Ice Palace, you might as well commit to that, right? Okay, but they're gonna go to Swamp Palace. DeFritza gonna be finding their hammer here. And how are they gonna react? Are they just gonna go straight to Swamp Palace? If they go straight to Swamp Palace, they're gonna be able to make up some time. It looks like they're going to Ice. Okay, so it's down to whether it's in Ice or Swamp Palace. Oh, unfortunately it gets picked up by the duck. That was either an accident because they were mashing for the swim, or that might have been intentional to set up the splash damage. It looks like it was intentional actually because they did it again. All right. So activating the flute again was probably intentional to set up some splash damage in this first room of Ice Palace. Just unfortunate that it didn't quite work out. All right, Kip gonna give us a Specky clip here. It's a tough choice, I think, between Swamp Palace and Ice Palace here. I think in terms of like raw efficiency, in terms of like items per second, I believe Swamp Palace does win out, but Ice Palace is pretty fast too when you have King of Samaria, and there is an advantage to putting off Swamp because then you can commit to doing left side Swamp more easily. DeFritza has also checked Ped for sure, and so they can potentially skip out on Cold Stare very confidently. if they know, if they, you know, once they find all 3 items in here. Kip gonna be very thorough here and electing to check left side during the first trip through Swamp Palace. This is a little bit of a non-standard play, I would have to say. You know, when you're routing through this dungeon normally, this is definitely something that is not uncommon. But I will say a lot of runners will say if you are only looking for 1 item for go mode, that you should rush the back every time. Because these two checks are very slow to get to. But of course, if you do spike something here, you're probably feeling like you gain a lot of time here, and that could be what Kip is looking for, especially given, you know, this whole situation with the hammer. Fritza unfortunately missing that spin slash clip into the stairs. Alright, what's here on left side? It is a red potion. And Fritza is already done with Ice Palace. See, that's the advantage of, you know, not having to worry about pad or anything. And also, you know, that's something that you can do with Ice Palace that you can't really do with Swamp Palace. Oh wait, they found it! So it was an Ice Palace, it was Ether, I missed it! So Fritza is in go mode. And Kip, unfortunately, is going to be way behind. Yeah, I mean, I imagine they're going to go straight to Ice Palace after this, but they still gotta finish the back of Swamp Palace and defeat Argus. And they're probably gonna turn in the green pendant as well. Also, Fritza's got a huge lead here. So really, these 2 runners kind of on the same path for most of the seed, but right when it really mattered, one went left and one went right. Kind of literally. So if it's going to be heading into Turtle Rock, just has to get the crystal from Trinex. And looking like they're kind of on track for a pretty good time on this seed, considering how slow the early game was. You know, Kip's saving grace is that he did manage to be kind of more efficient in terms of doing left side the first time through this dungeon. There's only 1 item left here in Swamp Palace. I assume it has to be an Argus, unless... I guess we didn't see the big key. That could be really frustrating if Kip finds the big key on Argus and is pushed back into Swamp Palace. That could be really frustrating, especially since we know nothing's there. Alright, Fritza narrowly quick swaps just in time to get those torches lit. And setting up for a nice cape dash here. Love to see it. Can I cape dash back out? I do believe this route is a little bit slower than using Magic Mirror, but I guess I haven't put that video out on my YouTube channel yet, so I can't say look at my video. Although to be fair, since they did elect to check Compass Chest first, I do believe not mirroring is correct there. So they did do that right, actually. All right, Kip is. Oh no, Kip not going to Ice Palace and instead going to go finish Pod. I totally get it though. Like, I think at this point, it's hard to say. Oh no, this is the green pendant turn in. Okay, yeah, no, this makes a lot of sense. Although, no, this has to be green pendant turn in into finishing Pod, actually, right? Because otherwise, why would you be in the Dark World? I totally get it though. Like, at this point, the only things left are, besides Ice Palace, are some really sucky chests, some really sucky checks, right? Like, We're obviously not going to go back for Misery Mire. Oh, the kid is leaving. Okay. Confused why they decided to go to the Dark World, then... Huh. Okay. I was gonna say, I do kind of understand, you know, going and rushing for Helmasaur, because like, at this point, you might just feel really behind and feel like you have to make some sort of crazy play. Although I feel like if you did want to make a crazy play, I wonder if like something like Spike Cave would be more appropriate. I think Catfish could also be a good candidate, although we of course we know that Defritza has already checked Catfish. Right, Catfish, Defritza looks like I didn't quite catch where the big key was, but they are going to check the big chest. Wasn't quite keeping track of keys. This is not a usual route, but this can be correct, depending on the key layout, so I'm not sure. Alright, Kip gonna just do this room using the Quake Medallion. Unfortunately, the Quake Medallion only takes care of the Pengators that are touching the floor. And if it's gonna find the Gold Sword here in Turtle Rock, they're gonna be fully decked out when it comes to fighting Ganon. Unfortunately, it takes a bunch of damage from that roller. This is going to be a little bit awkward for Kip because they, of course, don't know what the situation is for Pedestal. So I wonder if they're going to be priced into defeating Cold Stare here, even though it's totally not required. Oh no, no, of course they're not, because Ether was here, so they're gonna find it and they're just gonna leave. So they did decide to, they did elect to hit the Crystal Switch, which does unfortunately put them a little bit further behind. Hitting the Crystal Switch, of course, does make it easier to get to Cold Stare, but as we know, Ether is going to be on the path to Cold Stare, so we're not gonna need to go to Cold Stare today. So, and of course, hitting that Crystal Switch does cost you, 18 or 19 seconds. Alright, Defritza has to be a little bit careful here. It does have the Mirror Shield though, so... And finds the key there. It's like they're gonna make use of the Magic Cape just for some extra safety. Definitely a good idea, especially since you have half magic. Why not just use the magic that you have? Alright, and Kip on track to find their Ether momentarily as Defritza goes and confronts Trinex. Should be no problem of a fight with the Gold Sword on hand. And there's Ether for Kip, so Kip officially in go mode at the 1 hour and 27 minute mark. Okay, and a very nice and simple one cycle by Defritza on phase 1 of Trinex. So Defritza kind of ahead an entire dungeon, which is kind of exactly what you'd expect, as they didn't have to do Swamp Palace. So the time it took Kip to do Swamp Palace is basically what it comes down to here in terms of the timing difference. And Defritza is going to be making their way over to Ganon's Tower. Setting up for a nice hook speed to make movement a little bit faster over there. Nice. Unfortunately gets tagged by a hit from that Lionel, but not that big of a deal. Kip making some interesting use of the Magic Cape there, actually. I've never thought about using it for avoiding the dead rocks in that particular scenario. Usually you want to be able to dash through the dead rocks, ideally, and Magic Cape doesn't help with that, but if you're in the middle lifting the boulder, the Cape does help with that, and of course you're going to get a full magic refill in Turtle Rock anyways. Kinda like that strat, actually. I've never seen that before. Okay, Defritza is gonna start their search for the Ganon's Tower Big Key. Looks like they are going to continue right to the Compass Chest room. Setting up for a nice key dash there. Like to see that. Kip actually going to take the same Turtle Rock routing in the beginning, so I'm going to start with Compass Chest first. I do believe this is slightly slower than going ahead and doing the Fire Rock side first and then mirroring, but again, I don't quite have that YouTube video up yet. Ooh, it's kind of getting messed up a little bit by this Gibdo. Luckily has red mail, so it's not taking a ton of damage. Okay, in Compass Chest we just have a bunch of bombs, even more bombs, and some arrows, and more bombs. Okay. Not super useful. So what if it's going to go ahead and mirror out and give us our checks on the left side of the basement of Ganon's Tower. Kip unfortunately does elect to mirror from the Fire Rod side to get to Pokies, which is is actually slower. I hate to harp on this kind of thing, just because I do have this video like kind of planned. I already have the footage for it. And looks like Ganon's Tower Big Key is going to be the second chest in the Stalfos room, so Defritza is going to be good to start on their climb. Okay, it looks like the Turtle Rock Big Key was vanilla. So this is kind of the situation where it kind of depends. I have seen some people say you should always check the big chest in this scenario for Turtle Rock, but if you do have a key, or even two on hand, you can still skip the big chest here. I haven't personally worked out the the mathematics in terms of the expected average time and everything like that, but it's not crazy to still skip the big chest here. Oh, but Kip, wait, does Kip have the big key? I thought the big key was vanilla. Okay. Alright, Defritza continuing on their Ganon's Tower climb. I hope Kip has their big key, or at least remembers. They're gonna find out. Here, they don't. Oh no, they forgot it yet. It is vanilla. So they're gonna have to go back. Defritza making use of Ether for that room for Gauntlet number 2. Of course, Ether does instantly kill Stalfos Knight, so that's a very consistent and simple way to take care of that room. Really making their way nicely through these rooms in the Gauntlet. Oh, unfortunately, Richard misses that Syzax, but kind of makes good use of that those ice physics until the Beamos knocks them off course. Unfortunate. Alright, there's Kip's big key for Turtle Rock. Okay, Defritza looks like they're trying to line up the silver arrows here. Gets one. Does have the gold sword, so even if they miss the silvers here, yeah, does clean it up nicely there. Right, and some nice drops from those Wizrobes, but Defritza turns them down, says they are good to go with half magic and plenty of hearts. Don't need to waste any seconds grabbing those. Alright, and on to Torches 1. Kip is going to go ahead and grab his gold sword. Fritz is going to take an intentional fall to kind of reset their room position. It's a common strat for this first Torches room in Ganon's Tower. And I expect they're going to skip all these remaining chests here. They already have silver arrows and gold sword. There's pretty much nothing more that they could really be asking for as far as the Ganon fight is concerned. They've even got the magic powder here to get some extra health from these anti-fairy Bunny Beam combo. Alright, Kip gonna be able to use the Cane of Burna to do Laser Bridge a little bit more confidently. Unfortunately, Defritza not having great luck with Moldon 2. See if they can do okay on the refight. Oh, they're really getting bullied around. Okay. Ah, so they were trying to set up for a dash there. I was wondering if they were going to use the same hookshot strat that they used for the original Moldorm fight, but looks like they had a different idea for this one. Okay, Defritza just about done with their climb here. Just has to take down Aga 2. In the meantime, Kip setting up for their Trinex fight. Unfortunately, doesn't quick swap to the Fire Rod before taking down that first head. But is still going to get a 2-cycle on phase 1. Okay, if it's a little bit indecisive with that Aga 2 pattern. Okay, would have gotten a double there, but unfortunately Aga decided to throw a blue ball. Ooh, a nice double there. Oh, almost gets a triple. Was just a little bit off on the angle for that last slash. Almost at the end of their Aga 2 fight here. Oh, but gets blue balled again! And there it is. The Kip is on their way to Ganon's Tower. Let's see how Defritza takes down Ganon himself. Should be a fairly simple fight, even if things go wrong. There's only 6 sword slashes needed for phases 1 and 2, and of course, our runners have access to the Magic Cape and Half Magic, just as an extra backup measure. I believe there's one more hit needed, and that is already phase 1 taken care of. And Defritza choosing to just not even bother, with any shenanigans, just gonna use the Magic Cape. Make extra sure that they can get phase 1 over and done with. Looks like Kip is gonna use the same Ganon's Tower routing as Defritza, so really these two runners think a lot alike. It's gonna be just 4 silver arrows needed for phase 4 of Ganon, which is coming up on Defritza's side. There's one. Almost gets that slash there. That could have been pretty juicy. Gets hit by Fire Bat there, but luckily wasn't too bad. And gets a nice double there to end the fight. That is going to be Defritza finishing with a time of, looks like, 137 and some change. Looks like the final time is going to be 137.25. GG's to Defritza. So they are going to be advancing to the quarterfinals of the Gold Sword bracket. Very nicely played. Looks like Kip is going to go ahead and finish out their Ganon's Tower basement. So they're going to be finding their big key in the, I believe is the upper left chest of Stalfo's room. There's the powder, and that is the big key, so they are good to climb. Like they want to open these chests just in case it's something else, but yeah. Not much else you can ask for here. Oh, this has got to be excellent music for doing Ganon's Tower climb. I believe Kip is using the Star Fox MSU pack, so these are tunes from the Super Nintendo Star Fox game. Oh, having a little bit of trouble on that Mix 1 strat, but does get the job done. A very basic but very simple and consistent Mimics 2 strat. I like that. Nice key dash for that room. Yeah, and unfortunately that red Igor can definitely be a pain in the butt for setting up that dash. Got some nice uses of the Magic Cape. Always gotta give a shout out to my favorite item in the game. And Kip is on to their Gauntlet. Using Bombos actually for room 1 of Gauntlet. That's something I don't see every day. I mean, it's simple and it works. I wonder if they're going to do the same for this room or if they're going to switch to Ether. They are going to switch to Ether. Okay, good call, as the animation for Ether is definitely faster than Bombos, and as we explained earlier, Ether is also going to kill all the Stalfos instantly. You might be wondering why they didn't use Ether for the first room. That is because Ether will only freeze these Zazak enemies. Oh, only has one heart though. You better drink a potion here. Yeah. Better safe than sorry. Alright, so it is going to use Ether here, so we're going to have to chase down that Zazak, but... Oh, very nice dash, actually. Alright, let's see how they set up for this lineup on these silver arrows for Lanmo 2. Looks like they have a little bit of a different strat, but unfortunately gets tagged by one of those diagonal projectiles. Looks like it could have been really good without it, but pretty much gets the same 2-cycle. Excellent use of that mirror shield there to block that shooter shot. Takes the same fall as Defritza actually in this Wizard's 1 room. Yeah, I have to say, besides some of the small plays, these runners really kind of on the same wavelength for a lot of this seed. We're seeing some pretty similar... I wonder if Kip's gonna throw himself off. Okay, we're seeing a little bit of divergence in strats here. I was gonna say, if I saw Kip do the exact same Torches 1 strat, I was just gonna be... Okay, Kip walking instead of bonking there. Now I can't help but just like point out every single similarity or difference between these two runners. Alright, Kip electing to skip out on powdering the Anti-Fairy and Bunny Beam there. He was confident with the amount of resources they have. I don't blame them, actually. See if they manage to avoid falling against Moldormir. Okay, looks like they're okay. Manages to stay on track. Opens that last chest just for good measure. Ooh, unfortunately, doesn't make it across those bumpers smoothly. Oh, and gets hit just before their second dash starts up. Okay, and they're into their fight with Aga 2, the rematch. This one, of course, a lot more interesting than the first battle against Aghanim. Nice start so far. Oh, this is a really awkward pattern. Oh, nicely handled, though. Oh, I can't believe he got a double out of that. His best, yeah, as much as you can ask for. This is a very nice Aga 2. Oh, unfortunately got kind of pinned against the wall there. I feel like they would have been able to do a lot better if they just had a little bit more maneuverability, but finishes off. That was definitely, I think, 1 or 2 cycles faster than Defritza. Okay, they are going to walk into this Ganon fight with only 3 hearts. I wonder if they are going to just chug their blue potion right away. I guess they could also just put on their Magic Cape got plenty of magic. You just don't want to take a death here when you can avoid it. Okay, looks like they're just going to go in. They already have the cape pre-selected. I like that. Again, it's just 6 hits for phase 1, as well as phase 2. Okay, just misses that 6th hit. Nice, dodging the trident. And I imagine they're just, just going to put their cape on. Same strategy as Defritza, except I guess the one difference is they're doing it from the right side instead of the bottom, but same difference. Okay, it looks like they're going to take a different approach for phase 4 of the Ganon fight. They're going to start off with the torch glitch. So if you light the left-hand lamp before the right one goes out, the right one will actually never go out in this fight, so it makes things a little bit easier to manage. A lot of runners will elect not to do that when they do have the silver arrows, but it does make things a little bit easier. There we go. Nicely done. And it does make relighting a little bit less painful. Okay, might be able to set up for a double here. Okay, chooses to wait it out. Just stay safe. It just needs one more hit to finish it out. Very nicely done. And that is going to be Ganon taken down for Kip. So GG's to both of these runners. I hope you enjoyed watching this commentary rebroadcast of this match between Kip and Defritza. Kip going to finish with an official time of, it looks like,
this is Corneria.
1:45 and 30 seconds-ish.
Well done.
Roger. I'm heading back to Corneria.
So again, hope you enjoyed this match. If you want to see more Link to the Past randomized matches, definitely feel free to keep on checking back at my YouTube channel as I continue to try and upload some commentaries of these bracket matches that are happening. Or of course, you can just go ahead and check out the Go Mode Podcast Discord, or the Go Mode Podcast Twitch channel, as well as both of these runners' Twitch streams. That is unfortunately going to be the end of Kip's run in this tournament. Was definitely a pleasure to see Kip make it 5-1 through the Swiss stages, but yeah, Defritza going to take it 2-0 over Kip and going to advance to the quarterfinals, where I believe, I'm trying to see if we already have their opponent. I believe their opponent is going to be Swagalicious, who defeated Mormisil 2-1. So you can look forward to catching that quarterfinals match sometime if you so desire. That is going to do it for this broadcast. I hope you enjoyed watching. Again, my name is DDR Kirby, and I have been your commentator and rebroadcaster for today. Hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you all next time.